Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob.
And this is our podcast, Say Hello to My Little Film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is our October episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. Rob, you want to tell them what we do here?
Absolutely. Here on Say Hello to My Little Film, Ray and I take turns recommending movies to the other that we have seen in the hopes of getting the other to like it as much as we do.
Yep, we call this our fresh perspective on a retrospective review. This is Rob's turn.
Absolutely.
This is October. You're a horror freak. I'm expecting some horror slasher zombie movie.
Okay, well, you know, it is true. I am a big fan of horror films, and I know you are not.
Nope.
So as we do on this podcast, I'm not trying to bring you something that I know you're going to hate, but I got to try to find something in that vein that I think will at least tickle your fancy enough.
Yeah, you got to
get you on
expose
board
me.
with
You got to expose me to
Broaden
things I
your
haven't exposed.
horizons.
Yes, broaden my horizons. You got to try to whet my palate for some of the stuff that I maybe don't expose myself to enough.
Absolutely. And I think I've got a pretty good idea of how I'm going to do that this month. And I'm also going to do it by I had to look it up. This is the newest movie that I have ever done on Say Hello to My Little Film.
So is this a 2020s movie?
It is a 2019 movie.
Okay, so we haven't cracked that young yet.
I have not
So
cracked that young
it's
yet.
a baby,
it's
but
close.
she's only-
The
but she's
Babysitter is
7.
2017.
Yeah.
This movie is 2019, but it
Really
is
bookending
a
it there.
horror movie of sorts.
Okay, of sorts. I'm intrigued. Well, let's jump the shark, Rob. Tell me, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
All right, Ray. Well, what I got for you is a movie by they are a family of independent filmmakers.
A family.
A family
Like
of
a-
independent
like
filmmakers.
A dad and a kid and
and a wife.
And a
Yep.
wife.
And they're all and they make movies together.
How old is the kid? Like 6?
She is probably in her teens or 20s now,
Okay.
probably. But they are a great group of filmmakers. They are called the Addams Family.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of that fits the October theme in and of itself.
It does, but it's only one D though. Only one D though. But I'm going to show you is the 2019 ghost horror film, The Deeper You Dig.
The deeper you dig. So now, is this a big budget thing? Is
No.
this like okay?
No, and that is one of the best things about the Addams Family.
So this is like a generic family just making a home video.
No,
Somewhere between that
I
and the
wouldn't
movie.
say that. Yeah, you're going to be shocked. I will stake this claim now, and I know it's a bold claim. You will be shocked at
That's
how
shocking.
good these movies look for being like really independently made.
Wow.
So, the deeper you dig, and I will say the biggest thing to their credit is that their ability to craft atmosphere, which I think goes so far
Sure.
in filmmaking.
Especially in horror films.
And especially in horror filmmaking, exactly. So, The Deeper You Dig is about Ivy, who is a tarot card reader and not a real one, obviously, and her teenage daughter, Echo. And they live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, kind of a rural area. And a guy, Kurt, moves in down the street. And in one night, he kills Echo by accident, hits her on the road,
Oh, okay.
and buries her, and then tries to cover it up. And then that's kind of when the ghost story starts.
Okay,
So I don't want to give you any more than that.
Right.
But like that's kind of the basic. So it's a basic, a simple setup. But I'm telling you, the way that they can craft these movies is great.
Is this now like so? Does this feel like do you love this because there's just like a super independent feel? It feels like it's made with an iPhone, or do you love it just because like they get a lot of bang for their buck?
They definitely get a lot of bang for their buck.
Yeah.
So John Adams, coincidentally, yes, John Adams,
The president.
is not the president. He is the dad, and he's credited mostly as the director on all of their movies. Toby Poser is the wife, She's also an actress. She does like other things as well. So I think that's why she also has like they don't have the same last name or anything like that, but they just go by the Addams family. And she
What a
plays Ivy.
poser.
What up exactly? And then their daughter is Zelda, who
Ooh.
plays Echo. And you'll see it's crazy in the credits. Like it's one of those things where it's like producer them, cinematographer them, director
Right.
them, editor them,
That's cool.
writer them. Like it's like they do just about everything
Yeah.
for these movies, except for like sometimes like the special effects work and stuff that they can do. They'll have somebody else do that.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's really all them.
Well, that's very cool.
And so they've done it. They've had a really like I would say a pretty successful run over the last probably 8 years or so, because they had a movie called The Hatred that did really well. There was this one. There's another one called Hellbender, which is really good. That one's on Shudder. And then Where the Devil Roams, Hellhole, and then they just had The Mother of Flies that premiered this year. I think it's doing the festival circuit right now. And they've made quite the name for themselves. It's kind of like I said, a kind of a cottage industry for them. If they
Yeah,
were.
I mean, just getting a film made at that independent level is so hard.
It is. It's so hard.
To have done 5 of them is a feat in and of itself.
Yeah, and like I said, you'll see. They've gotten. I will admit, I haven't seen the last couple, but these early films, you would notice like it is very simple. Like it's the setups are simple, the story is simple, but they can just craft atmosphere so well, and they all play so well off of one another.
Oh yeah, sure. They
know,
have great chemistry.
Right, at being a family,
right.
Obviously, yeah, and it comes through, and I can't wait for you to see this movie, because while I know you're not a fan of horror, I think this is a movie that you could really connect with.
Sounds like there's a lot to appreciate, so let's check it out.
Let's do it.
We're going to invite everybody who's listening to the podcast, if you haven't seen The Deeper You Dig, pause the podcast, go check it out, come back when you're done, and see if I dig this movie as much as Rob hopes I will.
Fingers crossed.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
Rob, is making movies hard? Because they don't really make it seem like it's all that hard.
You'd think it would be hard, but that's what I'm telling you. I mean, they really.
I've heard it was hard.
Yeah, I mean, and I've done it before, and it is not easy.
Yeah.
But the Addams family seems to have it on lock,
Yes,
as the kids say.
Yes, very hard to tell that this is kind of what I mean. I don't know what the net worth of the Addams family is, but
What you mean, like they're
like
they're
I don't
network-
think
they
they're
own,
putting
multiple properties
Yeah.
and companies. No,
I don't think that, but I don't think they're spending
I don't think
$15 to $30 million on this movie.
No,
But
You have any
it'd be
idea
hard to
what-
tell.
Yeah, you okay? Well, before we start jumping into it, I'll ask you flat out. Like, what do you think the budget of this movie was?
I mean, knowing that they're like an independent family skews me one way, but I mean, I would still guess they maybe got some funding from, like, I don't know,
Give me a hint.
$1 to $5 million, somewhere in there.
$1 to $5 million.
I think they got some funding or something, and they made it.
$1 million. Is that your final
Yeah.
guess?
Yeah.
$1 million. $11,000.
$11,000.
$11,000.
They shoot this with iPhones?
I don't think so.
Okay, so they probably did fund it. They probably did fund this completely on their own.
Probably, yeah. I'm
Wow.
gonna go out on a limb and say, yeah, $11,000.
That's including paying Zelda probably, $8,000 or $9,000 to make her do it.
Exactly. No, I mean it is
Wow.
$11,000.
Wow. Well, they got the bang for their buck.
Yeah, and it does not look like that. Like, I mean, and I'm sure there's certain maybe things that they could. Maybe they bought a nice camera,
Sure.
so they own it, so they don't necessarily consider that as part of the budget, or
budget,
things
yeah.
like that.
I mean,
Like,
there's
I
a
don't
budget of
know,
another
I don't know
movie.
that those
Sure.
types of things. Obviously, the camera they used was pretty decent.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but clearly it allowed them to kind of cultivate a look and a feel and an atmosphere, which I kind of talked about in the before section, that was very effective.
Yeah. Yeah, they I think the director is John, right? So
Yeah, John Adams is technically the
yeah,
director.
you
Yeah.
can tell he's got a nice eye, an artsy eye
Yeah.
for shots and stuff, and
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Like I was wondering like about the abandoned house that
Sure.
his character works at, Kurt works on and lives at.
Yeah.
But like like did they buy the house and demo it, or is that
I don't
you know
know.
what I
Like
mean?
that, I don't know. I do know they live in that area.
Yeah.
Like in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York.
Okay.
That is where they live. So I know that is kind of part of it. I don't know if they own that house
Yeah.
or maybe it's a house near where they live or
Because
something
like
like that.
a rundown house like that, like there's so many angles you can take advantage of.
Right.
That they do. And
Yeah.
So that, again, it's just bang for your buck, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure, I think Hellbender was also filmed there. And like I said, I know, like I mentioned in the before, there's a couple of the newer ones that I haven't seen yet. There's one called Hellhole that I actually plan on watching soon. That one seems a bit bigger budget.
Okay. Well, yeah. Now they're making some money. They can
Right.
put something more back into it.
I don't know how much money they're making, but yeah, they're definitely either that or they're at the very least getting funding, like you said,
Yeah.
like a bigger funding source, because that one's more of like a creature feature, like there's bigger sets, more
Yeah.
cast, stuff like that.
I don't know how much money they're making, but they're on Prime now. I mean, that's a huge deal, I would think, to be
Well,
able to
sure.
be found on Amazon Prime. And
Well, I mean, and Shudder's actually
Yeah.
their official distributor, and I think for all of their films,
Cool.
almost all
yeah.
of them. I don't
well,
know if
to
they're
have a
all on
distributor
Shudder, but-
alone. Is,
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you can, as we kind of go through this talk, you kind of see the economy of their filmmaking
Yeah.
process. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like where they do keep things relatively simple.
Sure.
Their cast is pretty small, even outside of the family. It's
Right.
2 or 3 other people that I'm sure they know paid day
Yes.
rates at minimum, like because there was a SAG production, so they still have to do union minimum
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So it's and I'm sure it's considered micro budget. So there's a lot of ins and outs to that kind of stuff that doesn't
Sure.
matter for this conversation. But it's clearly they did everything they could to save every penny they could and get the most bang for their buck.
Yeah, and they do a good job at. At the end of the day, I think it's the story's got to be there for
Yeah.
the movie to work.
Well,
so,
let's talk about that.
Yeah,
then.
let's talk about
that.
the actual movie, and I'm sure we can keep touch on some parts that we thought was maybe filmed well, but
Sure.
yeah, let's touch on the story. So we have this. It's I think you said it before, but it's not really a horror movie.
Not particularly. It's more of a ghost story.
Yeah, a ghost story. There's possession
Yeah.
and stuff, but it's nothing that's really there to maybe a jump scare here or there, or gross out here or there, but not really there to scare you.
No, yeah, and I think with multiple of their movies, it is very supernatural in that kind of naturist kind of way.
Yeah.
There seems to be like a connection to nature, and I think this one is just the same. Obviously the Ivy character, Toby Poser's character, she is connected to the idea of witchcraft in that in certain ways.
Yeah.
She's a tarot reader, but she she says at one point like I've lost my sight and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But then they kind of talk about like the 7 circles and things like that. All of these kind of like witch aspects that kind of connect to nature as a whole.
Yeah, I had a I don't know if hard time is the right way to say it, but like was predicting if she was just a scam artist, if she really believed in this stuff.
I think
Early on, because
yeah.
she was trying to scam the old lady.
Right.
But I think by the end you kind of realize that she at least had it at one point for
Right.
real and turned her back on it for whatever reason.
Right, or just like she said, lost her sight, or
Yeah.
or lost her
sight.
faith,
Yeah.
as her other
Whatever
as her
yeah.
counterpart said at one, when he gave her the box, you lost your faith.
Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of part maybe of what like her arc through the movie is kind of rediscovering that
Mm-hmm.
through the loss of Echo, and then ultimately the reconnection of Echo once Echo kind of fully takes over Kurt by the end of the movie.
Spoiler.
Spoiler, right. But you should have watched the movie already.
Yeah. We
But-
asked you to pause. We asked you to pause.
We asked
nicely.
I clearly told you to pause, but yeah, and I do appreciate this idea of the ghost story, the possession element of it, but it's very subtle but effective, like the
Yeah.
kind of slow takeover of Echo and Kurt.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways I think you could have played the way you do this. Like, for a while, for a couple minutes, I won't say for a while, but you kind of wonder at first, is Kurt really seeing Echo? Is she really
Right.
there or not? Because
Right.
you've seen movies before play it where the guy's just haunted by this traumatic event where he kills a girl,
Yeah.
um, and that haunting memory is really what what gets to him.
Yeah. Sure.
But then you kind of play you have this other way where they're kind of playing this one where Echo is like taking him over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think obviously this is a movie on a budget and whatever that means, but like it's kind of interesting. Like I find this like maybe they could have done more with like how Echo takes him over. Like is she learning how to do it? Is it really easy
Sure.
to do?
Right.
Like could she have done it from the jump? But she was trying to torture him more.
It seems like she had to kind of slowly do it. Yeah.
it's
Just
like
from what I gathered.
Yeah, and I feel like that's an interesting thing. Like, man, I got to learn how to torture this guy,
Right.
But you're not really. It's not told from her perspective, and I don't know if trying to tell it from the ghost perspective would be that cost beneficial anyway.
That's true. And, I do think it was a situation where he kind of had, like, it was breaking him down.
Yeah,
And ultimately,
maybe
for her,
weakening
right?
him.
Yeah, and letting him, uh, getting his guard down enough to be able to overtake him. And I think you can kind of see that in scenes like with the radio, which I think was a very effective tool.
Yeah.
Because obviously she had, Echo was listening to that song the night before she went sledding, and then that was the song that was on the radio whenever it would turn on in the house with Kurt. I thought that kind of connective tissue was really cool. Just the way that she would kind of appear, and then and then once that possession started to happen, he kept having to remind himself who he was.
Yeah.
I thought that was really effective.
Yeah, to me it was really interesting because it's like there is this battle between Echo and Kurt about like who's controlling this body.
Right.
That I kind of, like I said, I think I'd like to explore more, but I could just see like it'd be too hard on the budget that they're trying to work at to do that. You'd have to use CGI. You'd have to like be able to see her in his head somehow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It would be too hard. But so the things that they do that are effective to make up for it, like you said, are like the use of the radio.
Mhm.
Like I thought a really small detail was like when he went to the gas station or the Quickie Mart and he got the cappuccino instead of
Right.
the beer. Like that's what Echo really liked.
Yeah.
And in fact, even her name being Echo is like a
Mhm.
really interesting little toy there because it's like she's an echo in his brain.
Yeah.
I like when her mom went to his house, Kurt's house, to kind of question him a little bit
Mhm.
and to kind of see if she was in there. She screams her name, but
Yeah.
it's also in a way she was screaming like, "Oh, like your house is noisy," like "Echo, echo, echo," like to
Right,
see if she
yeah.
could hear an echo. You know what I mean? So you could kind of play it off like I wasn't screaming for my daughter. I was just seeing if there was an echo in your house. Or, like
Right.
I don't know. There's just they got a lot of bang for their buck and just that subtle, use of picking a name in the storytelling department.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way you kind of touched on it there a second ago about the Ivy character and the Kurt character, and kind of after Echo's, quote unquote disappearance, and Ivy's kind of, going about her life, but still trying to, find her daughter and
Yeah.
all of that, and then, kind of intertwining with Kurt in his life a little bit. I thought the way that they kind of built that relationship was effective.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like forced or awkward or anything like that. And kind of I feel like sometimes a movie like this, the mom character kind of gets that feeling right away. You
Right.
know what I mean? And all of a sudden then focuses on that guy, and then it's like, I got to solve this and figure out how we did it.
Right.
It was more of like she was missing something, and she was kind of finding this connection in this guy that was nearby.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also kind of like how I think like sometimes in movies like this, the mother character is like so, or maybe more in real life too. I'd say, but the mother character who's lost the child and their body's not been found or anything, and they're insistent they're alive, and
Sure.
but I like with Ivy that she had accepted Ivy or Echo's death early on. And so
Mhm.
she wasn't looking to find her in that way. She was looking to find her in a more spiritual
Right,
way. I
right.
kind of like that little twist, just different enough from what you normally see.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about before about Ivy having to re-find her quote unquote faith.
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of part of it as
For
well.
sure.
And again, part of her journey to that end point. Um, I think there's a lot of great visuals overall, and
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that has to do with the locations. You kind of
Sure.
mentioned that house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that they just had a great eye for where they're going to tell this story. Even the exterior sections,
Yeah.
where it's finding the shooting in the snow and
Right.
things like that. I think that all that stuff was super effective, especially when it came to the lighting,
Yeah.
because I think that's one of the most unsung hero elements of this movie is the lighting.
I
Uh,
trust you on that.
I mean, you don't have to trust me. You can see it. It's just it makes it look. Like I said, kind of gives that atmosphere, that kind
Yeah.
of creepy atmosphere, and I think some of it is super subtle. I think one thing that's really great that I really is on this rewatch I appreciate it even more is so if you think about when like Ivy is doing her tarot card reading, and basically when she's always at that table,
Yeah. The
it's
pitch
always
blackness behind her.
right.
Yeah.
It's like that poker table light. It's just that ring of light
Yeah.
on that table, and there's nothing around her, and it's
Right.
almost it gives it that like ethereal feeling of like, well, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, is this your house? Like it, but it's very economical because it's it doesn't matter where you shoot that. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's like there's not a real location that you're in.
No.
It's just the light and the table. But they use it multiple times, like whether it's for the readings or even when she's like doing making the flyers and stuff. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
that same ring of light, and that's it. And I also really loved uh, that lighting pattern when she's doing the reading for the clown.
Yes.
You
I
know,
love that part.
yeah, and it's
Who's her?
right, it's her, but the way that light really like captures the makeup of the clown, like the crackling of the skin on the clown and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I just again, it's something about this movie that I think I'm sure everybody notices, everybody sees it, but maybe they don't realize that's why it's so great.
Yeah. Speaking of, I just want to touch on the clown because I just love that what that scene is able to kind of get across. Because I think it's really smart. Because when you kind of get into like the super witchcrafty stuff and the tarot stuff, like you could lose people on like, all right, what's exactly happening? Like the 7 circles. I don't know if that's like super clear. Like
Right.
what's every circle? Was there 7 different things that happened? I'd have to go back and check. But like after the one where it's like Kurt gets the buck, they're like, that's 7. It's complete. I'm like, it is? Okay,
Right.
I'll trust you on that.
Sure.
But so like stuff can get complicated with that, and it's subtle. They're not saying this is circle 1. Like they're
Right.
letting you just letting the movie happen and
Mhm.
stuff. So, but my point being, like when you use the clown there, it's just like such a effective way of like you don't have to get lost in exposition, and you understand like what she's thinking about herself.
Mhm.
For letting Kurt like talk to her or try to lie to her, and she's either just accepting it or I don't know. Just you have to when you're making a movie like this on a low budget, you've got to find those ways to shoot those scenes to get that kind of stuff across. And I think that was just really brilliant.
Yeah.
Same thing with like putting the snake down her throat. I don't know
Oh,
if that was
sure. Like
circle
the
1, but
perfect,
like you
right,
don't
like
have to
that.
show it, but you just know she's stuck there for like a minute on screen with her mouth stuck open,
Mhm.
and then her mouth is stuck. Like she can't just close it at this point. So when they picks up the snake, you don't have to show it, going down her mouth because that'd be a very hard shot for them to do,
Sure.
without CGI. But you set the audience up to understand what's happening, why she can't close her mouth because she's like in this paralyzed position. So I
Mhm.
know like I said, that's economic stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's bang for their buck.
Well, yeah, and I do think that's one of the ways that they're able to, like I said earlier, kind of craft this atmosphere and these shot designs that draw you as the viewer in, and it doesn't look like it costs you $11,000. You know what I
No.
mean? Like that's kind of. I mean, you told me $1 million. Like I mean,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have blinked an eye if they had told me
Right.
that they spent $1 million making this movie. But nope, and it's. I think that's kind of like I said, kind of the magic, of the Addams family is they're able to take these things and elevate them to such a place where that kind of number blows your mind when you find out that's what they made this for.
Yeah, it's insanely low. I will say so. One thing I wanted to mention, like, the movie's called "The Deeper You Dig" because Kurt, as he's trying to dispose of the body, um, he digs a little grave, and it's not very deep at all.
Right.
And it just reminded me so much. There's this like stand-up comic. I can't tell you what comic, but he was talking about how hard digging is, and
Oh,
he's like,
sure.
digging is so hard. Like people underestimate how hard digging is. Like if you think about it, when murderers kill somebody, and their only chance to get away with it is to bury this body as deep as they possibly can, they all stop at 1.5 feet. Like we got to make this work. I can't dig any deeper than this.
Right.
Like this has got to work. Like this is how important it is to get rid of this body, and they quit. Like
Right.
that's just how hard digging is. And I just kept thinking of that when Kurt was like failing.
Well, then you had Echoes like, that's the
Basically
deepest you
call
can
him out
dig.
on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the deepest you can dig.
I know.
Like,
Echo's seen that stand-up bit.
Yeah.
Okay, me and Echo are on the same page.
Yeah, no, that was, and I like those interactions, kind
Yeah.
of like making her almost like the tormentor in a way. Like I think that was very effective. I thought it was, one of the times she appeared, it was I think when in the house and she was kind of like perched up on the shelf or like
Yeah.
the
I don't know.
yeah.
There's a couple times where I'm like, is she floating? Like, how are they doing this?
Well, there is one when
Yeah,
she's
with
talking
the
to
mom.
Ivy and she's floating in the woods. That's crazy. That blew my mind again. Like every time I watch this movie, like there's another part that's just like, wow, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
But she almost kind of looked like the Crow.
Yeah.
Like I thought that's kind of what they were like. I'm sure. Maybe Zelda is a big fan of the Crow, or maybe they all are or something. And she's like, I want to look like the Crow in this. So like,
Right.
okay, let's do that. So I
I
thought
will
that
say,
was cool.
plot hole wise, I'm like, when Echo is talking to Ivy in the movie, I'm like, why don't you just tell her that Kurt killed you? Like, why are we leaving this a mystery?
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think that's really important at the end of the day.
No, I don't think so. And kind of as the movie progresses, like I said, I like the slow possession, taking the ghost story and kind of taking it to a new place, and the ending I think is great. Kind of where so Echo ends up in the body of the person that killed her. And Ivy has to kind of accept that person. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there was an interview that I saw with them that's actually on the Deeper You Dig Blu-ray. It's out on Arrow Video. If anybody is interested, it's out on Arrow Video. And it's a
Nice
great
plug.
It is highly worth it. But they talk a little bit about that. And Toby Poser talks about how she likes that element of it, where it was this kind of twisted ending where it's like, well, right, where it is almost like it almost has
Yeah.
to be a forgiveness thing because the person you love is in this person that you hate, and you have to kind of accept that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty cool little ending there.
Yeah, it's a nice little thematic. And it kind of felt like they were, I couldn't tell at parts in the movie, and I mean this in a good way, where like if Ivy was like trying to forgive Kurt, or how much she knew about the what exactly happened between Kurt and Echo. Like, so parts in that middle section, or like later quarter of the movie. Like it was kind of like, are they going hunting? Like, is she going out there just to kill him? Is she trying to move on?
Right.
Is she trying to talk to Ivy? Like it. So I kind of had this feeling of forgiveness was somewhere inside Ivy.
I mean,
and
I guess I don't think she knew until she went to the house. And
and
then
found
she
the
saw
sled.
the sled.
Yeah, that was the
and all of that.
confirmation
Yeah,
for
the sled
sure,
was the
yeah.
confirmation, and then obviously then you have their fight scene, which I thought was an effective scene.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in a movie like this, with an independent film, sometimes fight scenes can come off very cheesy.
Sure.
And I think they did a really, really good job of choreographing that whole scene.
Yeah,
to be effective.
They made it look violent. I think it was a little wishy-washy and like maybe too hard to determine. Like, is this Kurt? Is this Echo? Is this real? Like,
like you're talking about like after she stabbed her with the screwdriver or whatever.
Like all throughout, because the first time he kills him, it wasn't him. It was an image. Like when he cuts his head off, like that didn't really happen. That was
sure.
So that was fake. And then the second time she kills him, it was Echo she was hurting. And then the third time, then it's him, and then it's back to Echo. So it was like, okay, there's no real way of telling which one's which.
And maybe that was, I think that's the point in a way, is because they were kind of in that, melding phase, and, Ivy was, not really sure who she was fighting. Now,
Right.
Granted, she wasn't, I think part of it, and, especially when, I think it's after Kirk gets stabbed with the screwdriver and he's on the ground and he like sees his name written on his hand.
Yeah.
I think that was Kirk remembering who he was and tricking Ivy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Like, so when he is it Echo, and then when he looks at it and he sees his name, he's able to like take over again.
That's why his name's written everywhere,
right?
So that he remembers who he is.
Yeah, and that's why I said I almost feel like that struggle between them, in and of itself, could be a movie. You know, what I mean? To kind of find that battle, that battle of possession, because you don't know what you're rooting for at the end. Like you are watching that battle, and I'm like, do I want Kurt to win because it's Echo? Do I want Ivy to win, but it'll kill Echo? Like, what do I want to happen here?
But I think that's the point. Again, I think that's kind of the twist on that possession ghost story kind of idea, because you're right. Like, it kind of puts you as a viewer in a precarious position to think, okay, well, if Kurt dies, then is that Echo's
right,
goal is to finally, kind of get revenge, and then she moves on, or is the full possession her thing? So it's, I think you as the viewer kind of have to have that little bit of like an internal battle, if you want to call it that, of what do you want to happen? Do you want
I want to happen what the characters want to happen, but if you don't know what the characters want to happen, then it's hard to. Then you're not rooting for anything.
I guess I can somewhat agree with that, but I do think that there's a certain degree of you as the viewer kind of being like, well, I go back to when we talked about The Big Sick. This is where I was like, by the end of the movie, I didn't know if I wanted Kumail to end up with his, with Zoe Kazan, and so obviously they, as the filmmakers, wanted you to want them to end up together,
right?
But I don't know if me as the viewer did.
Yeah.
So in this instance, I think it's the same thing, where it's like, did you want Ivy and Echo to be reunited through Kurt's body, or would you have preferred like to have Echo be at peace and cross over and So and I think ultimately in the end it's what they wanted, which was Echo to fully take over Kurt, and then Echo and Ivy be reunited. But you as the viewer do have autonomy to make some of those wants yourself.
Yeah, and like I said, I think thematically I kind of like that forgiveness angle, like practicality. I'm like, why would Echo want to be a 48-year-old man? You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So,
I mean, it's a great
plot
question,
holy, but it's sometimes.
But also, she doesn't have a whole lot of choice. Like, this was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she could have like found some other kid, but their cast is pretty small, so it was like either him or the convenience store guy. And I mean,
she moves. Yeah, whatever happens when you die. Just like, I'm good. You caught my killer. I'm good. But yeah, no. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about a lot throughout this movie, again, plot holy stuff, not trying to pick apart these guys. They did an amazing job in $11,000. But I'm like, Kurt is living in this house where it's really cold, apparently, in October, which I can't even imagine what it's like to live in somewhere where it's cold in October.
Right.
And snow in October. Sounds amazing. But, like, his house has holes in it. Like, there's, and he's just, like, it seems like it's freezing outside. Like, I'm like, you should have like chapped lips.
There is one point in the movie where he like wakes up in the morning and he's like doesn't have a shirt on, and like he's in bed, and I'm like, do you even have heat in there?
I know.
Like man,
there's no way that air conditioner could be efficient. Yeah. So,
but to be fair, it's like the snow snows, and then the snow leaves, and then it comes back. So it's probably not quite as cold as you think. It's probably like in the 30s, which is still cold, but you know what I mean. Like,
it's chilly.
It's chilly for sure. So I know I completely agree with you, but again, it kind of goes back to that idea of like this house was just such a great location for this.
Such great visuals, you can't pass it up.
Right. All right, so this might be a bit of a. I'm going to take a step back, and this might be of a weird, bit of an odd question, but I'm just curious. So in the beginning, when this incident first happens, Kurt obviously hits Echo by accident. It's not, like
it's kind of hard to even tell if he actually hit her. Like, I would say, like, again, movie on a budget, but like it's just like a bump bump.
Right. Yeah, and you would think like it would be a little bit of a bigger thing. I can get that, but
whatever. They're doing what they can.
They're doing what they're doing, exactly. But then he, obviously he kind of freaks out, and then he like takes the body, and then he ends up taking it back to the house and putting it in the bathtub, and then she wakes up.
Yeah,
and she's not dead.
Coughing.
But before that, up to that point, before like he ended up having to actually like kill her.
Yeah.
Like, did you feel bad for Kurt in a way? You
know
what
I mean,
like, was he more of a sympathetic character up until he actually like suffocated her to death?
Right, because at that point I wasn't sure if he was going to be like, I don't know what John Adams looks like. So when he first left the gas station, I was like, oh, this must be some extra because he didn't even talk in this scene. He didn't
Oh,
respond to the clerk at the gas station.
Right.
So this guy's just getting a low daily rate and isn't allowed to speak. And then he was in the next scene, like, oh, I think that's the dad. Okay, so that's the dad. But yeah. So when he kind of hits her, and it's like it's pitch black out there. And I think they were trying to say like maybe he was drunk driving.
Yeah,
but
they did kind of say that at one point.
I know Echo says you shouldn't have been driving drunk, and she would
Right.
probably know because she's possessed him. So,
Right.
but it was hard to tell if he was kind of drunk or if it was just like pure accident at that point, where it was
Right.
just like it's super dark out. Like there's deer crossing the street that are catching his
Mhm.
attention.
Right.
He's trying not to hit one of those because those will kill you, man.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
will kill you.
Those will.
And then he goes a little. He hits the deer wearing human clothes on a sled. But yeah. So at first I'm like, yeah. I mean, I can tell he's gonna be the bad guy at this part of the movie, but I could see, I could definitely thought like, okay, but it's not. It was an accident. At the end of the day, it
Right.
was an accident. So
Yeah.
it'll kind of get blown over at the end or whatever. And then she coughs, and I was like, uh-oh. I know where this is going now.
Right.
And yeah, once he strangles her, then I'm like, you are not my friend anymore.
Right. So that does that.
Not
completely-
going to your birthday
That level was needed to really make him the
Yeah,
bad guy.
yeah.
He wasn't just the bad guy before. That was the
No.
thing that really made him the bad
No,
guy.
we talk all the time. It's like when you think somebody might be a protagonist, you're willing to
Right.
follow them no matter what.
Right.
But when that's the scene, we're like, nope, this is not the protagonist guy. It is definitely now it's Ivy. Ivy's the protagonist. So now I hate you.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think, I do think he does have something, like as an actor. You know what I mean?
Je ne sais quoi?
Yeah, yeah. Just something a little extra.
Yeah.
And and I think he is effective to where he kind of like you do kind of feel bad for him at times because
Yeah.
it's like I think again he kind of had that situation where it's just like
He's alone.
right, you can tell he's definitely he bought this house. You can kind of give him his own backstory. Like he's bought this house because he's trying to get his life back together.
Fixer-upper.
Maybe he was in prison or something like that, or was an addict at some point, or clearly he likes to
Got
drink.
screwed
Maybe he's
by the upper elite in
Right.
the stock exchange or something. Who knows?
Exactly. And you're just so you kind of see him in this instance trying to put his life back together, and he does this stupid thing, and it's like
Killing someone.
Right, exactly. So, but then,
Yeah.
when he strangles that girl, you're like, can't come back. Can't come back from that.
No. And then I do think they kind of play with like, all right, can you get yourself out of this? Like, can you just bury the body? No one will find it, and then. Not that I'm rooting for him to get away with it, but then it's like I thought it was really smart when he's like, "I'll kill your mom if you don't stop
Right.
bothering me."
Sure.
But then that just is what pisses Echo off. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Kurt,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have done that."
Right. What did you think of Toby Poser as Ivy? Like her performance?
I think she was good. I think I don't know. Like I wouldn't say like give her an Academy Award necessarily,
Sure.
but I think she was really effective. She kind of tapped into this desperation of the mom the way you'd want her to. I thought.
Yeah.
Like I do think like when they go hunting and stuff, like it just feels like she's like really at this spot where she doesn't know if she could forgive him or
Mhm.
what, and I don't know. I think that duality of like what is she trying to get done here or what can she do is I think she does a good job of showing that.
Yeah, I really like again kind of rewatching this movie again and just revisiting it, kind of having these not discovering something new. I don't want to say it like
Yeah.
that because obviously I love the movie coming in, but I just every time I watch it, I'm also really kind of magnetized by her performance as
Okay.
well, and like her as an actress, because I do think that there's something kind of interesting about her, and I do think it kind of goes back to this idea of this being somewhat like witch centric.
Yeah.
I think she plays that so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it just kind of that naturist kind of witch vibe. I think she does that really well. And it's also great because for a movie like this, $11,000 budget, not that these movies aren't made, they're made all the time,
Right.
but they're usually awful. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they look like crap and they're acted like crap.
Right.
And I think that's another level of the Addams family that kind of takes them to that upper echelon of filmmaking where it's yes, you can went out and you were able to procure a camera that makes it look good, great, but you can put the performances on screen to draw the viewer in, and I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's I think since they are also the writers, they can write roles that they know they can do. Like they can keep it in their ballpark. Like
they do a lot of improv, apparently.
Okay.
not that they didn't write anything, but they also do a lot of improv.
Well, which is smart again because you're going to improv stuff that you can do.
I read a crazy fact about them. So they have a completely democratic filmmaking process. Like, there is a script, but to a degree. But if they each have a different idea, they will shoot it 3 different ways, and then they will decide which one works the best. And in that interview that I mentioned earlier, John Adams, we throw away a lot of footage, a lot of footage. Yeah. And again, they're not shooting on film; they're shooting digitally, so it doesn't matter. But it's still, they throw away a lot of footage.
Yeah, and that's smart too. I always kind of think the best idea isn't always the first idea. So it's going, when you're there on the day and you're doing something, if you have that freedom to do it multiple ways, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
It seems like, when you do things multiple times, you better be efficient with your lighting, like you were mentioning earlier, because the light's going to change if it takes too long. So you better get your stuff done. But that is cool to give yourself options in the editing room. Obviously, is what you want, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and they shoot very spontaneously too, from what I understand. So they will, if it's snowing outside, they'll be like, "Oh, well, let's go shoot now because it's snowing. There's snow on the ground." Because obviously, no budget, you're not buying fake snow, or doing anything like that. And you might think that when you're watching this movie, you might be like, "Oh, okay, they had snow on the ground and they didn't, and they did. Well, maybe they're putting snow or whatever," and they're not, obviously. So they are very
coming out of the river. I was like, how cold is that river now?
Right, exactly. So it's they, again, kind of going back to that ingenuity, that makes something work. And again, it's a talent. It really is. It really does come down to talent, and I think they've got it.
That might be what they do best.
Well, now, Ray, I think we've talked quite a bit about the deeper you do. We've dug the hole. We've dug it deep.
Yeah, plenty deep.
But we haven't gotten to the bottom yet.
No.
Because the bottom is the answer to the question. The question that's on everybody's mind.
They're all thinking the same thing.
They are. They're all thinking it. And Ray, did you like The Deeper You Dig? And would you recommend it?
So I liked The Deeper You Dig.
Oh, okay.
I did.
I got you to like a horror movie in a sense.
In a sense. Yeah. But I'll add this caveat. I think you have to watch this through the lens that you set up for me and that we set up for the viewer on the podcast. I think if you just ran across this on Prime, and you didn't you didn't know what the Addams Family was doing. You didn't know what they were accomplishing. If you just took the movie at face value, I think you'd be like, "Oh, it's a little slow," or "Where's it? Why this? It needs more this or it needs more that."
Interesting.
You know what I mean? But I think when you watch it through the eye that maybe it's really intended.
Right.
I think you just appreciate it way more. So it's kind of a 50-50 answer. I enjoyed it because I think of the perspective I had going into it, and I would I don't know if that means I cut them slack, but I appreciate the feats more. Where if you were just thinking this was a big budget movie, you'd be disappointed. Oh, they really skipped some corners here. The perspective could really change what you think you're looking at.
Cost them $11,000 to make. This
it's
movie.
like if I go to a restaurant and they charge me $50 and I order a scalp and there's one scalp in the middle of the plate, I'm like, wow, I really got gypped with this one thing. But you know what I mean. And so if you think this is a big budget movie, you might be like, wow, they're not really putting a lot of. It doesn't feel like they're putting a lot of effort into this, but when it's the complete opposite. So I don't know. I just think you just appreciate it so much more when you know the background behind it. So is the movie bad or anything? No, but I could see some people being like, I don't know if there's enough difference there from general horror flair or fare that you would necessarily love it.
Okay.
So I recommend it. But I recommend it to people that listen to the Art Before section of the podcast.
Well, yeah, we recommend every movie to everybody when they listen to our podcast. All right, Ray, I am so stoked that you liked The Deeper You Dig. But before we leave, I got to find out, is there anything else that you've been watching that you've liked?
Well, I'm watching a ton of stuff, but I'm in the middle of like 6 or 7 shows right now,
That
so we're gonna have
is
to wait for
par
them
for
to
the course for you.
get done. But I did finish 2. I
Okay.
watched The Paper
Oh, I
on
started The
Peacock,
Paper.
like
I haven't
the
finished it.
quote unquote sequel to The
Yeah,
Office.
it is a
It's
sequel. I call
yeah,
it that.
but I liked it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
I
enjoying
had
it
fun
so
with
far.
it. I kind of I heard some people get some middling reviews, but I've seen a bunch of shows after The Office, like Grocery Store and Community, that like start off a little
I saw
slow.
grocery store. I saw liquor
What was that
store. I
grocery
saw.
store one called? Was it just called Grocery
No?
Store?
Was it called like Superstore?
Superstore.
There
There
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
But that show ended up great. Community obviously was really great after like the first 2 seasons. So it's like some of these shows need a little bit of time,
Right.
to settle in. So, and I think The Paper did great with a season 1. Like definitely a stronger season 1 than Community had.
Sure.
Definitely probably a stronger season 1 than Superstore had. So I'm kind of intrigued. I hope it gets renewed. I think it got pooped on a little bit. I don't
Mhm.
think Peacock did any favors. Like, why was this straight to the app and not on TV?
TV.
Why did you release it? And when you dump all the episodes at once, I feel like that has a connotation that you don't really like it nowadays. Like
Sure.
that whole thing with like dropping them all at once was really hot like 5 years ago, but now everybody's kind of over it. It feels
Mhm.
like. So I don't know. Maybe it kind of felt like it was set up to fail, but I think there's so many different character dynamics that I
Mhm.
just really like, because it's like 3 offices in one.
Right.
I don't know. I'm having fun with it. So you said you've liked the first 2
I'm
so
on,
far.
I'm in the first 2 episodes. I think it's got. I think it's got a lot going for it because it's not trying to just be The Office.
It's not. It's not.
And I do think it has a little bit more like heart and idealism kind of right out of the gate, whereas I felt like The Office kind of found that
Yeah.
later on. It almost had like a weird nihilism to it, but it
Sure.
was fun to watch. You know what
Yeah.
I mean about the office life.
Yeah,
So,
they're not trying to recreate Michael Scott, which I
No,
appreciate.
yeah.
I mean, all these characters are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
They have some very different dynamics in an office we haven't seen before in The Office. So I
Right.
really appreciate that.
for sure.
And I also really quickly ran through 4 episodes of Marvel Zombies.
Oh, I need to do that. Mr.
Yeah.
Kitty Kaiju did it, and he loved it.
I was gonna say I would be surprised if he didn't. I thought it was pretty strong. I think the ending is a little. They made him miss the mark a little bit with the ending,
Sure.
but I thought 90% of it was like really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Was really well done. Very graphic for Marvel. Like,
graphic.
yeah, for Marvel.
Sure.
Some stuff I'm like, man, start doing this in live action. You might get some people back.
Oh, sure.
They have some. Marshala Ali is
Mhm.
Blade mixed with Moon Knight. Like, there's some cool
Oh,
things
interesting.
there,
Yeah.
and I don't know. So I really enjoyed it. It was pretty good, pretty darn good storytelling. I think this was originally a movie,
Mhm.
and they're like, we're not going to be able to get this made. So turned into 4 episodes
Got it.
of a show, but it doesn't feel like it's like chopped off. Like, okay, this is where the episode 1 break was.
Right.
It rolls more smoothly than that. So I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm not sure if I love the ending,
Mhm.
which kind of sours me a little bit on the whole show, but just very little.
Okay.
That's what I've been checking out. Rob, what about you?
Let's see. I have a metric ton to
Oh,
talk
boy.
about. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll try to be quick. So it is October, now, and it's kind of that's
Yeah,
just
this
what
is
we
where
do. This
you
is the
go
Morgan
through the horror
household.
movies
Is
every day.
everybody we're watching horror movies, and so I've got some that I've watched horror movies that I watched for this, and then I've got some that are just kind of other movies I've watched. So let's see. I'm going to start off with some horror movies. A lot of Shudder stuff because we love Shudder
You
around
do.
here, and we love Shudder this time of year.
Why doesn't Shudder pay you to plug them? Because you
I don't
love
know.
Shudder so
I
much.
do love Shudder. So we watched Azrael. So I get to talk about Samara Weaving again.
Again.
Another Samara Weaving movie. So please, everybody, listen to The Babysitter. I just get to say that every time. But I do love Samara Weaving, and she was in a movie called Azrael, which was about kind of like a post-rapture, post-apocalyptic world where she doesn't speak. In
Ooh.
fact, nobody speaks. There's like no lines in the whole movie. It's almost silent, which
Wow.
is interesting. It was pretty good. I thought, again, it was kind of a movie that was kind of built on the atmospherics.
Sure.
It's not my favorite movie of hers by any means, but I thought she's good in it. And it was great to see her in a movie where it's like, okay, I'm going to try something different by not speaking.
I'm going to act
I'm
without talking.
Right. I'm going to act without lines. And I thought she did a great job with that. Another thing I watched was Clown in a Cornfield, which you would hate on its face because it is a cheesy slasher movie about
Scared to death of
a killer
clowns.
clown, right? And then there you go, you're scared to death of clowns. But I'm going to say it's a great movie because it actually is a slasher movie with something to say.
They're not supposed to do that.
They're not, and they're really not. And I know some people who have loved the movie and hated the movie for that very reason. But I highly, highly recommend it. It is not. It's what you think it is, but it's also not at the same
Isn't
time.
that kind of similar to what we thought about 28 Years Later? Like that had something to say too. I haven't checked that out yet because
It
it's
is. I
horror.
mean, I think that all the 28 Days movies have, but I
Yeah.
think this is more so where it's like on its face, you're like, this is just a cheesy midnight movie that you
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
once or hate it, whatever, and it's got really nothing to say. It's all about the gore and the kills. That's not what this movie's about. It's about so much more.
Equal right for clowns.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it's about. Bigger cars,
Yeah.
bigger cars for clowns. But the next thing I watched on Shudder is The Rule of Jenny Penn,
Okay.
which
Not familiar.
John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush.
Ooh.
And it is so amazing because John Lithgow plays the bad guy. He plays the antagonist.
Okay.
Jeffrey Rush kind of plays an asshole who is an old judge who ends up having a stroke and ends up in a nursing home kind of facility to quote unquote rehabilitate. And he ends up being completely tormented by John Lithgow, who has this really creepy puppet that named Jenny Penn. And it is a movie about getting old and how terrifying that can be.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so effective. Again, kind of a movie that really builds on its atmosphere, and it just that the performances again.
Yeah.
John Lithgow is a treasure.
Sure.
And
I love Jeffrey Rush.
And Jeffrey Rush is great.
Yeah.
I did not to take anything away from Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush is also fantastic in it. But I know you're a big John Lithgow fan.
Yeah.
So but
Harry
it's
Henderson's
a movie,
baby.
exactly. But it's a movie that I think you would like. It's a horror movie, but I do think you would like it. Let's see. I watched The Shrouds. So this is the new David Cronenberg movie.
Ooh.
Another plug I get to do. Go watch or listen to our episode on Videodrome. It is another kind of body horror film, but it's more of his newer style of movie where it's less in your face and kind of more slow moving and kind of ethereal. But it's also a really great movie about this guy who invents these shrouds that you put your loved ones in when they die, and you bury them, and you can see their bodies decay.
Okay.
Like it's interesting.
Isn't that the opposite of what a shroud should do?
I'm sure, but it's also like it kind of gets into that whole like technology element of
Yeah.
it. It's a very interesting movie. It's not my favorite of his movies. I will say it's good. It's not. I don't know. I don't know if I would go great, but it's definitely good. But but it's very Cronenberg, so that's great. And let's see. I've got. Okay. This is great. I'm so excited to say it. So
Okay.
in September, I'm also, besides being just a big fan of Shudder, I also am a huge fan of the Criterion channel.
Of course,
obviously.
yes.
And I have it. I'm a charter subscriber. And in September, they put out a collection called Nunsploitation.
Nunsploitation. So there's no exploitation going on.
No, it's just exploitation of
Absolutely
nuns.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a whole series of movies about exploitation films about nuns, and there are some gems. One called Killer Nun, which is good. It's about a nun who goes under brain surgery, ends up kind of with these psychosexual urges, and then there's like a murder spree that goes on in this like hospital that she works at, and she kind of gets pinned on her. It's great. It's audacious. It's crazy. It's everything you would hope from an unsploitation film. And then the next one I watched, I've been wanting to watch forever, and it's Ken Russell's The Devils. And this was a movie that I had always heard about and just had an opportunity to watch it and just hadn't taken it, but now I finally did. And Ken Russell, British director, Altered States, things like that. It stars Vanessa Redgrave and Oliver Reed, and it is about a hunchbacked nun who, played by Vanessa Redgrave, who falls madly in love with Oliver Reed, who's kind of like this, idyllic priest in the Catholic Church. And when he kind of, not even necessarily spurns her, but he ends up kind of like, he has his own like sexual proclivities and stuff like that, as exploitation films do, and he kind of falls for another nun. She goes nuts and ends up accusing him of witchcraft and possessing her with the devil. It is brilliant. It is
Really?
so good, and there's all kind of like political intrigue in there too, because like the King of France is like wanting to overtake the city where this like all this is taking place. It's super interesting. It's a crazy movie, and Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave are both just amazing in it. It's from 1971. I can't recommend it enough.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's and I again I kind of wanted to be able to say the word nunsploitation on our podcast because that's just awesome.
All right, Rob, well, I think we are just about ready to wrap up our conversation on the deeper you dig, but we don't want the audience to be done just yet. Even if they're really tired, they've
Keep
listened
digging.
to this podcast, yeah, late night, dig deep, and just give us 2 more minutes of your time. Please try to find the power to like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, because if you do, we're going to read it live on air someday. You can email us at carrayrob@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. If you could share the podcast, that would be absolutely amazing. We are trying to grow our listening audience, and any help we can get on that would be amazing. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you are listening to us on, by all means, let us know what you thought of The Deeper You Dig. Also, if you've seen more Addams Family movies, let me know what your favorite one is.
Which one
'Cause
should I
maybe it's
check
not
out
this
next?
one. Right, exactly. Maybe it should be the one that Ray checks out next. We will be back next week with a special triple a copy of a copy of a copy.
It's a lot of movie watching.
Exactly, because we are going to be watching Nosferatu, Nosferatu the Vampire, and Nosferatu. And I'm super pumped about this because I really enjoy the original and the new one, and I am unsure if I've seen the middle one with Werner Herzog, so I am
Very
super
cool.
pumped to finally check that out. Then we will be back in 2 weeks, and it will be back to Ray.
My episode, and you can find out what that episode is in the stinger in a couple minutes.
And I imagine it's going to be a horror movie because I know you love them, and you're going to, since I recommended one to you, you're definitely going to recommend one to me.
I'll never tell. It's not.
I figured it.
It's
I
not.
figured as much. I was just Josh.
Couldn't find one that I love that you have not seen.
That's fair. That's fair. But either way, you are not going to want to miss it. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
Hey everyone, on my episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, I am going to introduce Rob to the movie Where Eagles Dare from 1968, starring Richard Burton and Clint Eastwood. Some people call this the greatest war movie of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I really dig it. Allied agents are plan this daring escape on a Nazi castle. Like, what other setup do you need that would be better than that? So if you have not seen Where Eagles Dare, check it out in the next couple weeks, because that's what me and Rob are going to be talking about.